Hello and welcome to the first episode ever from the Phrasal Verb King. Now, I'm an ESL, an English as a second language teacher, but my favorite thing to teach is, well, you guessed it, phrasal verbs. So today we're going to look at the word fall. Now first let's just talk about the word fall. Now as you can maybe see around me, all these beautiful leaves changing colors because what season is it? Yep, the fall. We have 4 seasons. We have spring, summer, fall, and winter. And right now, well, this fall is looking beautiful. And here where I live in New England, in the northeast of the United States, it's a beautiful fall day. But now let's talk about the verb fall. Well, what is that? Maybe, whoa, my crown. If I were to climb up here and I were to trip, I would fall. And fall up? No, of course not. So now I'm gonna add the preposition fall down to the ground. That's its literal meaning. Another literal meaning for the phrasal verb to fall would be if it's maybe a very windy day in here and one of these trees were to fall over, it's going to lose its base support and it's going to crash down, right? But it's going to fall over at an angle. That would be a literal meaning. But now let's think about some other phrasal verbs that we have using the verb to fall that might have some different meanings that are not literal, that you might have to really use the context to understand exactly what they mean. Did you have any summer plans that fell apart? Or did you have any summer plans that fell through? So, did you hear? I'm using the same root verb, the verb to fall, right? But I'm using different prepositions and they really have the same meaning. So that's one of the funny things about phrasal verbs is they're used very differently sometimes in maybe different parts of the United States or different parts of the English-speaking world. But here, let me see. Did you have any summer plans that fell apart? Did you have any summer plans that fell apart? Well, this summer I wanted to go visit a friend in West Virginia, a place in the United States that I've never been to, but it didn't happen. The plan fell apart. The plan fell through. So here, to fall apart or to fall through, to fail to happen. The next phrasal verb using the verb to fall off. Now, I always say to use the context to try to understand what the phrasal verb might mean. Here's a good question. Do you know any sports teams who have really fallen off in the last couple years, despite being championship teams before? Maybe you don't watch American football, but there's a team from Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, last year they made it to the Super Bowl, the championship for American football. This year, they have a losing record. They have really fallen off. So what might I mean if I say the Kansas City Chiefs have really fallen off? They've lost respect, they've lost credibility, and most importantly, they've lost recognition in the American Football League. To fall off. This next one is a great phrasal verb for all you romantics out there. To fall for. Now be careful, because to fall for can have 2 meanings. The first, listen to my question here. You might like this one. Have you ever fallen for someone at first sight? The first time seeing someone, have you fallen for someone? What is that? To fall for a person. To fall for a person. Let me tell you, I do remember the first time I ever saw my wife, and I was very much enamored. I thought she was quite beautiful. To fall for would be to desire romantically. Or another meaning for the phrasal verb to fall for is not so great. Now, here's a good question. Have you ever fallen for someone's scam? Do you know what a scam is? A scam is when someone cheats you out of your money. Usually it's money, a scam. So, to fall for someone's scam, that's not a good fall for, is it? To fall for here means to be deceived, to be cheated, or to be tricked. Do students who don't read during summer vacation fall behind students that do read during summer vacation when the school year starts? Fall behind. Behind. Well, probably the students that do read would be ahead of the students who don't read during the summer. So here, to fall behind, this means to fail to maintain. To fail to maintain. To fail to keep pace. Here's a good one for everybody that lives in a cold climate. Do all roofs in northern climates need to be built slanted so they don't fall in when it snows? Do all roofs need to be slanted so the roof doesn't fall in when it snows? To collapse when something falls in. When something falls in, it's going to collapse inward. To fall in. Do you have some money that you can fall back on if you lose your job? That's a terrible question. Do you have some money that you can fall back on? To fall back on money? What do I mean? Here would be like to have some insurance. Or how about this? Do you have another skill that you can fall back on if you can't do what you do for work today? To fall back on another skill, well, that would be like to have a plan B when you fall back on something. You have an insurance, you have something you can rely on, or maybe you have another plan when you can fall back on something. In English, specifically in American slang, we have a phrasal verb that also comes from military jargon, military vernacular, military speech, which is to fall back. Fall back, you might have heard in some movies where they're depicting battle scenes in war, and the general or the captain of an army yells for everybody to fall back, which means to retreat. Maybe not surrender, because you might be losing the battle, but you're still trying to win the war. But if you fall back in battle, you're gonna stop fighting and you're going to retreat. And this phrasal verb is very much used a lot in slang when people are maybe very tense and there's some anger, but somebody says fall back, meaning really to not fight. To not fight. Probably a good idea, most always, right? Fall back. One tough question to hear. Have you ever fallen out with a friend after a bad fight? Now here, use this question. This is a great question that can help you understand what it means to fall out with. Two prepositions here after the root verb to fall. To fall out with. Have you ever fallen out with someone after a fight? Well, probably a fight with a friend is not a good thing, right? So if you fall out with them, you lose contact. To lose contact over a conflict. when you fall out with someone and the friendship, unfortunately, comes to an end. Well, I hope you really liked this phrasal verb session with the verb to fall and adding all of these prepositions to create these phrasal verbs.